be much more difficult for me.
Massimo.
Wait. I have to say it all now. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'm never gonna be able to see it again.
When the first 365 Days movie landed in 2020, no one could have predicted just how much of a stir it would cause. Based on Blanka Lipińska's hit novels, the Polish erotic film immediately sparked attention worldwide because it was bold, dramatic, and unashamedly over the top. The story followed Laura Biel, played by Anna Maria Sieklucka, who unexpectedly becomes involved with Sicilian mob boss Massimo Torricelli, played by Michele Morrone. It wasn't long before this risky, intense love story shot to the top of Netflix's charts, proving that there was definitely a massive audience for this kind of storytelling. The success was undeniable. Even though critics weren't kind to the film, Rotten Tomatoes famously gave it a 0%, viewers just couldn't look away. For 4 straight days, 365 Days sat at number 1 on Netflix. That's not something many international films manage to do. Because of that, Netflix and the filmmakers had every reason to keep the story going, and soon we got 365 Days this day in April 2022, and the next 365 Days only a few months later in August of the same year. This quick turnaround showed just how strong the demand was. People wanted more of Laura and Massimo's dangerous romance, and the sequels delivered exactly that. But now fans are asking the big question, could there actually be a 365 Days 4? And even though nothing has been officially confirmed, the truth is that there's plenty of reason to believe it could happen. One thing that has fueled speculation is the way the next 365 days ended. Instead of neatly wrapping things up, the movie closed on a cliffhanger with Laura and Massimo meeting on the beach after everything they had gone through. Their conversation revealed the pain and misunderstandings between them, but it also showed growth, especially in Massimo. He finally admitted that if Laura chose Nacho, the other man she'd grown close to, he would accept it. For a character who had been defined by control, this was a big step forward. And just as Laura was about to respond to him, the movie ended. No answer, no resolution, just the lingering question, who will Laura choose? That kind of ending doesn't happen by accident. It feels like the filmmakers left the door wide open for another installment because audiences want closure. If the series was truly done, they probably would have given us a clear ending, but instead they handed us suspense. That alone makes it easy to imagine 365 Days 4 picking up right where the third movie left off. Now, some might say that because the films were adapted from a trilogy of books and Blanka Lipińska hasn't written a fourth, there's no story left to tell. But that's not really a problem. After all, the third film already strayed quite a bit from the original novel, choosing a more grounded and mature ending rather than sticking to the book's wildly dramatic twists. That proves the movies don't need to follow the novels beat by beat anymore. The filmmakers have shown they're willing to branch off into new territory, and that means a fourth movie could easily be an original story, perhaps even inspired by ideas from Lipińska herself. In fact, the author has already hinted at what she'd like to see if the saga continues. She suggested a retelling of the events from Massimo's perspective instead of Laura's. That would be an interesting angle because it could explore everything from a totally different lens. Massimo has always been a bit of a mystery, a man who hides his emotions behind power and control, so getting his inner thoughts would completely change how we see him. It might even give audiences more sympathy for his choices. Another reason a fourth movie makes sense is the characters themselves. Laura, Massimo, and Nacho still have a lot of story left in them. Laura is torn between two very different men. Massimo, who represents power, passion, and danger, and Nacho, who represents trust, gentleness, and freedom. By the end of the third movie, Laura hasn't chosen, and it's impossible to imagine the series not resolving that love triangle. Massimo is already showing growth in how he treats Laura, while Nacho is patient and willing to wait for her. Both dynamics could create endless drama in another installment, and it wouldn't just be about them. Supporting characters like Olga, Laura's best friend played by Magdalena Lamparska, and Domenico, Massimo's right-hand man, could step into bigger roles. The third movie didn't spend much time on Olga's relationship with Domenico, but a fourth film could center around their wedding. A wedding is the perfect setting for tension, secrets, and emotional confrontations to boil over. It could be where Laura finally has to face her feelings about which man she truly wants. Even Laura's parents, Clara and Tomasz, could return for cameos, adding some depth and grounding to the story. Since they've appeared in earlier films, it would make sense for them to be part of whatever happens next in Laura's turbulent life. As for the tone, the next 365 days made a clear effort to address one of the biggest criticisms of the franchise. The earlier films were accused of glamorizing toxic, controlling relationships, but the third installment shifted toward themes of consent, agency, and mutual respect. Laura had more control over her choices, and Massimo showed he could let go if it was what she wanted. This change surprised a lot of viewers, but it also opened the door for future films to continue exploring healthier dynamics while still keeping the erotic, dramatic flair the series is known for. A fourth movie could build on this, showing how Laura and whichever man she chooses work towards something more balanced, even if their relationship remains complicated and fiery. Of course, timing matters. The first film came out in 2020, and then the sequels arrived just 2 years later, released only months apart. Now it's been about 3 years since the next 365 days, which makes fans even more eager for news. Even though nothing has been confirmed, the longer wait doesn't mean it won't happen, it just means it could be in earlier stages of planning. Netflix has seen how successful these films have been in terms of viewership, so it would make sense for them to greenlight another one, especially since streaming platforms thrive on buzzy, conversation-starting content. And let's be honest, 365 Days 4 would absolutely get people talking. Whether fans love the series for its passionate romance or critics roll their eyes at its melodrama, no one can deny it sparks strong reactions. That's exactly why a fourth movie makes so much sense. It would keep the franchise in the spotlight, give closure to Laura's story, and continue the conversation around what has become one of Netflix's most infamous trilogies. So what could the plot actually look like? There are a bunch of options. The simplest would be to pick up directly from that beach scene with Laura making her choice. Maybe she chooses Massimo and the movie explores how they rebuild their relationship with more honesty. Maybe she chooses Nacho, and the focus shifts to what it means for her to walk away from Massimo's dangerous world. Or maybe she chooses neither, and the story shows both men trying to win her back in different ways. On top of that, new threats could be introduced. Massimo's life as a mafioso has always added tension, but it's never been fully explored. A fourth movie could dive deeper into the dangers of his world, forcing Laura to make decisions not just about love, but also about safety and survival. Nacho's family connections could also create conflict, adding another layer of drama. Whatever direction it takes, one thing is certain: 365 Days 4 would still be filled with the same elements fans expect: intensity, romance, lavish settings, and yes, plenty of steamy scenes. That formula is exactly why the films have been so popular, and it's unlikely the filmmakers would stray from it. In the end, even though nothing is confirmed yet, there's a strong chance that 365 Days isn't finished. The story feels incomplete without knowing Laura's decision, the characters still have arcs to explore, and the audience is clearly still invested. Netflix has a golden opportunity to deliver another installment that not only satisfies fans, but also pushes the series into a slightly new, more mature direction. So while we wait for official word, it's safe to stay optimistic. Because when a series has proven this popular, and when its final scene practically begged for a continuation, it's hard not to believe that 365 Days 4 is just around the corner. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.